Okay, so I'm not sure if you're watching this video, if you saw the first few, but we've only done a few, so hopefully you are in good shape. Okay, so jump in with us now with this video. Okay, I'm not, oh, that's what I was going to say. So let's say you do all this work and that answer is not there. You see -2, but there's no fractions. Maybe they wrote the answer as a decimal, okay? So make sure you know how to change a fraction to a decimal. 19 negative fraction key 4, right? If I put it in as a fraction, it'll keep it as a fraction. My calculator will. The way I put it in, actually, that's how I left it, sorry. If I want to change it to a decimal, I would divide. So 19 negative divided by 4 gives me negative 4.75. So just know how to go between a fraction or a decimal, because you guys are at the mercy of multiple choice. If this was just homework, I would take either one. It doesn't matter. They mean the same thing. But multiple choice, did they give you the answer as a fraction? Did they give it as a decimal? So if you divided and got a decimal, but the answer was a fraction, don't forget how to write it as a fraction. 19 negative fraction key 4. If you put it in as a fraction, it stays as a fraction. And then when you hit equals, remember, your calculator is going to change an improper fraction to a mixed number, like that. And you just hit shift fraction key to change it back. So that's just saying 19 over 4 was already simplified. Okay, so guys, here's my speech I give to my AP students too. You guys are at the mercy of these tests that have lots of multiple choice. Same with my AP kids. A lot of their questions are multiple choice. And so I always tell them, let the multiple choices help you. Like, look at the graph and narrow it down a little bit. Like, I always say, look at what they gave you, okay? What's the same and what's different? Well, all of them have the same y-intercept of -2, okay? Some of them have a positive slope, some of them have a negative slope. Well, guess what? You all should know that that is a positive slope. It's already graph free. You don't have to graph it. It's kind of working in reverse, which one of these matches that. So anything that has a negative slope, you know it can't be the answer. Even if you didn't know what else to do, you'd have a 50-50 chance. We tell students on any big test, AP, EOC, SAT, ACT, if you can narrow yourself down to 50-50, you're in really good shape. And you can do that a lot. I'm going to show you a couple more of those. All right, so how do I know the difference between those? They both have a solid line, which we should, okay? The difference is 5 over 2 or 2 over 5. Think about it. To go from like this point to like this point, are we going up to right 5 or up 5 right 2? Like, which one makes more sense? We're going up to right 5. That's a shortcut way of looking at it. If that didn't make sense to you, you could pick any 2 points on the graph and plug into the slope formula, and you would get 2 over 5, okay? But hopefully you could kind of see, oh, I'm doing rise over run. My rise is a lot smaller than my run, so the 2 over 5 makes more sense, okay? In the next one, describe the graph, okay? So how would we graph this equation? Guys, the truth is you need to be in slope-intercept form to answer that question. So just like we've done a million times, getting y by itself, this is what I was talking about up top too, we should be really good at being able to rearrange an equation at this time. If what I'm about to go through is easy for you or makes good sense, then you're in good shape. If you are not understanding and you would not have been able to do this without my help, that is a sign you need some help, okay? There's no shame in needing some help. We all need help sometimes, okay? I'm getting y by itself because our reference sheets are on our desk. We know what slope-intercept form is. And then we divide by 2. And we would get y is less than, I did not need to flip. Okay, so I don't have to graph it. I have to decide which one is right. First of all, is this going to be a solid or a dotted line? Dotted, that's right. It doesn't have the solid line under it. Remember we talked about that at the beginning of class? You wrote that hopefully on your paper. So you can immediately get rid of the 2 that have a solid line. Again, that 50-50 chance is a pretty good odds, okay? And then are we going to shade above or below? You have to be able to look at that symbol and know, does that say less than, does that say greater than, and which way do I shade? Is this going to be shading above or below? Below. It's less than. Okay? Study all that stuff we did at the beginning of class. Study that. Okay? That. Remember all these words? These are coming back. You need to know all that stuff that we wrote on the top of our notes. Okay? All right. Next one. Which of the following solutions are true for this graph? Guys, always read carefully. It says select all that apply. That means there could be more than one answer. That's misleading because that just looks like a regular old multiple choice question. But it's saying there could be more than one answer. Okay? So it's hard to see it on your paper, but this is the shaded area, solid line shaded below. Okay? And this is just, if any of these points are in the shaded area, they are a solution. Okay? So 1, -2, that would be like right around here. Is that in the shaded region? Sure is. That would be a solution. To the right 2, up 3, so that's A. I'll just label it with the letter. This one's B. Is B going to be a solution? No, it's not in the shaded area. Now be careful on these two. These two are, let's go ahead and circle and get that out of the way, because 1, 0, that's C, 2, 0, that's D. Because the line is solid, they are solutions. Guys, be careful. If that had been a dotted line, you would not say they are solutions because it says less than, not equal to, okay? But if it's solid, we know that that means anything on there is part of the solution or equal to. So again, if this had been a dotted line right here, C and D would not be included, okay? And how about -3, 1? Yes or no? Left 3, up 1. Are we in the shaded area? Nope. So it's not a solution. Okay? A tutor charges a flat fee of $50 plus $25 per hour for tutoring if they want to earn at least $200, which inequality will model the situation. All right. So let's start writing it. I would never try and just pick one, right? I would write this myself. I would say, okay, $50 flat fee plus $25 times however many hours. And I glance down here to make sure I use the same letter, H for hours. I'm going to leave a space and then the total goes on the other side. Now, at least, this is where you go back through that conversation with your parent. At least. Can I have at least $200? Does that include the 200? Yes. Would that be less than or more than 200 that you are asking for? Can I have at least 200? Is that more or less? No. No, if it's not less, it's more. Yes. You want at least 200. So guys, if that's confusing, you're going to want to study these. Okay? At least is greater than or equal to. You know you're going to have questions like this. Now here's the problem. Look, they put the 200 on the other side. So this is where you flip it like a pancake so it looks like this. Everything flips. If you don't understand what I'm saying, I'm picturing a spatula and my spatula goes under this and I just literally take everything and I just plop it down the opposite way. So the 200's on this side, the 50 plus 25H is on this side, right? But this also flips. See how the inequality sign is pointing to the 200? It should continue to point to the 200. And then you can find your answer in there. Be careful. The answer is A, right? That's what matches this exactly. But I could see how someone would think D was the answer. Just quick glance. The only difference is the H is on the 50 instead of the 25. So just be really careful when you're doing multiple choice. Here's that language again. Back to this stuff. If you don't know the difference between these, you can't answer this unless you just guess correctly, right? 5 times a number, okay, we get it. 5 times a number is something 7. It's that something. Which one is that symbol? Is it fewer than? Is it at most? No, less than? At least? You have to know that. Fewer than 7? Fewer than is just this. It's not including the 7. If we want something that's fewer than, less than 7, it means you can't have the 7 as part of it. At most 7, that's the one. Okay? Back to solving for a variable. Hopefully this stuff is easy for you. This is the stuff I was talking about we've been doing all year. No parentheses, no like terms on the same side, x's on both sides. We start there. We get our x's together on one side. Which side? Left side preferably, right? We want to go over here whenever we can. Right, so add 2x to both sides, then what? What do I do, Gabe? Minus 9. And last step, divide by 5, no flip, right? 7/5 could be a fraction answer. You could have 7 divided by 5, which is 1.4. Just know how to change it in your calculator to match a multiple choice answer if need be. Okay? If we graphed it, it would be an open circle going to the right. Vitali, how are you sleeping during a test review? Distribute, right? If you see parentheses, got to get rid of them first. Distribute. Why do you wait for them if you can do real quick? So we distribute. And now this problem is just like the one next to it. Get your x's together. Where? Left side preferably. 2x plus 3x is 5x. Alex, what do I do next? Minus the 10. And, you know, I'm doing this in my head. Of course, you type it in your calculator if you need to. 6 minus 10 is negative 4. In fact, I'd rather you put it in your calculator than try to, especially on a test, just make sure you're getting it right. It's too important. Divide by 5, no flipping because it's not negative. And there it is. Okay. If I graphed, it'd be a closed circle pointing to the left. Almost there. The most work was on that first page. These are kind of spread out. Okay? So guys, matching an inequality to the graph. Okay? I can't really do this without putting it in slope-intercept form. We have to be in slope-intercept form because you might have to flip an inequality symbol, things like that. But guys, one thing I could do before I even start the problem is I could get rid of 2 of these answers. I can get rid of it before I do anything simply by knowing if it should be dotted or solid. There's 2 dotted, there's 2 solids. Which ones am I going to get rid of, the dotted or the solids? Which ones am I getting rid of? The dotted. Can't be that one, can't be that one, right? If you have a solid line in your inequality symbol, your graph is going to be a solid line. So you're at a 50-50 chance at this point. Let's not leave it there. Let's go further and put this in slope-intercept form, putting y by itself. So I would add 24x to both sides. You can't actually add those together, right? But we want the mx to go first. And then divide by 8, no flipping in this one. So y is greater than or equal to, put this in your calculator if you need to, and there's the rest of the equation. But really all we care about is the greater than. So I have to know that that says greater than and which one I shade when my answer is greater than. Greater than is shading above. Look back at the notes we wrote in the first couple of minutes of class. That's what you're going to study, so you can make up the difference between those last few examples. Because it's going to come down to that little bit of language, where do I shade, dotted versus solid, all that stuff. This one's already in slope-intercept form. Thank you very much. That's half the battle, is knowing that it's there. I have seen students in the last week in both of my on-to-run classes trying to do stuff to this equation. It's already in slope-intercept form. We should be able to recognize that at this point. But again, you can get rid of two solutions by the type of line. We have two solids, two dotteds. If you're greater than without the solid line under it, you can't have a solid line. So you already know it's got to be either this one or this one. And you didn't even have to do any work for this one. It's knowing that that's greater, so we shade above. Okay. Ryko, and Kristen are solving this inequality by graphing. Is either of them correct? Explain your reasoning. So we're going to look at what they did, and then it's a multiple choice, okay? So I'm going to solve it real quick. It's one step, right? It's just getting y by itself, and there's only one number on the same side, bless you, as the y. There's a delayed response there, maybe. Okay? I need y by itself. That's multiplication. Opposite of multiplication is division. So I would divide both sides by 4. And I know that looks pretty crazy, but remember, you have a fraction key on this calculator. We cannot be afraid of fractions. That's 8/3 divided by 4 equals. There we go, 2/3. So when I look at their work, so look at this person's work, it's exactly the same. So they did the right work, okay? One of them shaded below, one of them shaded above. That's the difference between them. Which one is right? Who's right? Should we shade above or below? Guys, come on. This is less than. We've got to know that. Guys, if you need to make note cards to know this, you have to know what these symbols say. If it looks like an L, it's less than, shade below. The other one is greater than, shade above. This looks like an L. See, if I just open my fingers a little bit wider, it makes an L. That's shading below. So that means Ryko is correct. Okay, so we can get rid of Kristen being correct. Ryko's correct because Karen shaded the incorrect region. Okay? Not because Kristen did not graph the correct boundary line. She did. That's this. It's a solid line. She graphed the right line. She just shaded wrong. Okay? 2 more. Almost there. Another and problem. And there's a mistake in this, so I'll have to fix it at the end. But remember, when it's written like this, we have to rewrite it 2 other ways. Sometimes and problems are given to you already separated with an and. Sometimes they're not. Okay? So I'm going to separate this. It's the same color. So 3x minus 6 is less than 12 plus 2x. There's the purple. Right? And 12 plus 2x. Remember, you use that middle part